The Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. Their purple-skinned warriors had conquered over 800 different species across the galaxy. They had burned entire planets and turned proud civilizations into slaves. No one had ever stood against them and survived. Their high sovereign sat on a throne made from the bones of defeated kings, and he believed that the universe belonged to him. When scout ships first discovered the humans, they sent back simple reports. The creatures called themselves Terrans. They had spread across a small region of space near the edge of the Orion Arm. Their technology seemed basic. Their ships were few in number. Their colonies appeared weak and undefended. The scouts recommended immediate conquest. High Sovereign agreed without hesitation. He ordered his greatest fleet commander, High Commander, to assemble an armada and crush these Terrans before they could grow any stronger. Was the most feared warrior in the Empire. He had never lost a battle in 300 years of service. His 4 purple eyes had watched countless worlds burn, and he had enjoyed every moment of it. The armada that assembled was the largest in history. 6 million warships gathered at the edge of human space. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The fleet stretched across the void like a river of death, and every soldier aboard was eager to add another species to their list of conquests. Before the attack began, sent a message to the humans. It was standard procedure for the. They always gave their victims a chance to surrender, not out of mercy, but because they enjoyed watching lesser species grovel and beg. The message was simple and direct. The Galactic Empire demanded the unconditional surrender of all Terran systems within 48 standard hours. Every human world would become property of the Empire. Every human being would serve thee as slaves. Any resistance would result in the complete destruction of Earth and every colony that carried the human flag. There would be no negotiations and no second chances. Expected panic. He expected desperate pleas for mercy. He expected the humans to fall to their knees and offer everything they had in exchange for their lives. That was how every other species had responded. The message traveled across space at faster-than-light speeds and arrived at Terran Fleet Command exactly as intended. It was received by a young communications officer named Private Jenny Cole, who was eating her lunch when the alert sounded. She read the message 3 times, then started laughing so hard that coffee came out of her nose. Admiral Daniel Moore was in his quarters aboard the TFS Relentless when Jenny forwarded the message to him. Daniel was 52 years old with gray hair and calm brown eyes. He had served in the Terran fleet for 30 years, and he had seen many things that would have broken lesser men, but he had never seen anything quite like this. He read the demands while sipping his morning coffee. When he finished, he set down his cup and smiled. It was not a nervous smile or a worried smile. It was the smile of a man who had just heard an excellent joke. Daniel forwarded the message to Fleet Command with a single note attached. The note said only 4 words. They have no idea. On Earth, the message reached President within the hour. Was a tall woman with silver hair and sharp green eyes. She had led humanity through 2 major crises already, and she had learned to stay calm when others panicked. But there was no need for calm this time. There was no crisis here. She convened an emergency session of the Terran Defense Council in the underground bunker beneath the Capitol. The room was filled with the highest-ranking military officers and government officials on Earth. Generals and admirals sat around a long table, their faces illuminated by holographic displays showing the fleet. General was the first to speak. He was a large man with a shaved head and a thick beard, and he had commanded ground forces on 12 different worlds. He pointed at the display showing 6 million enemy warships. "That is actually kind of cute," he said. The room filled with quiet laughter. No one was afraid. No one was panicking. The atmosphere felt more like a surprise party than a war council. Captain Lisa Grant leaned back in her chair with an amused expression. Lisa was the youngest officer ever appointed to Strategic Command, and she had earned her position by being smarter than everyone else in the room. She had studied them for years and knew everything about their tactics and weaknesses. "Should we tell them about the reserve fleet?" she asked, "or would that spoil the surprise?" Shook her head slowly. "Let them come," she said. "Humanity could use the entertainment." The council spent the next few hours discussing strategy, though strategy was perhaps too strong a word. They were really discussing how much of their true power to reveal. Humanity had learned long ago that the galaxy was a dangerous place, filled with aggressive species who respected only strength. They had also learned that visible strength attracted challenges, while hidden strength ensured survival. The Terran fleet that they had detected was a tiny fraction of their true military power. It was a decoy, a mask, a careful illusion designed to make humanity look weak and harmless. Behind that mask lay something that would have terrified them if they had known about it. Admiral Daniel Moore joined the meeting via holographic link from his ship. His calm face appeared above the table, and everyone turned to listen. "They have made a critical mistake," Daniel said. "They believe that what they see is what exists. They scanned our public installations and counted our visible ships. They measured our broadcast signals and estimated our technology level. They never thought to look deeper." He paused and took another sip of his coffee. "They have given us 48 hours to surrender. I suggest we use that time to prepare a proper welcome. Nothing too dramatic, just enough to make a point." Nodded in agreement. "Very well, Admiral. Show them what happens when someone threatens Earth, but try not to traumatize them too badly. We might want to be friends later." The council adjourned with smiles on their faces. Across human space, the word spread quickly. They were coming. An empire that had terrorized the galaxy for thousands of years was about to learn a lesson that it would never forget. And somewhere in the void between stars, aboard a flagship called the Eternal Dominion, High Commander waited for the humans to beg for mercy. He had no idea that humanity was not preparing to surrender. They were preparing to laugh. The 48 hours passed without a single human response. No surrender came. No desperate messages begging for mercy. No attempts at negotiation. The silence was so complete that High Commander began to wonder if the humans had even received his transmission. He stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion and stared at the star map with growing impatience. His 4 purple eyes moved from screen to screen, searching for any sign of activity. His tactical officers reported nothing. His scouts detected nothing. The human systems ahead appeared completely undefended. "Perhaps they have already fled," suggested his second-in-command, a younger named. "They may have abandoned their worlds in terror." Considered this possibility. It would not be the first time a species had run rather than fight. Some civilizations scattered like insects when they arrived, hopping to survive by hiding in the dark corners of the galaxy. They never succeeded. The Empire always found them eventually. "Begin the advance," ordered. "We will take their home world first. Once Earth falls, the rest will follow." The Armada moved forward in perfect formation. 6 million warships crossed the boundary into human space with weapons charged and shields at maximum power. They expected to encounter defense platforms or patrol vessels or at least some automated warning systems. They found nothing. The fleet passed the outer colonies without resistance. Empty stations drifted in orbit around quiet worlds. Ships sat motionless in their docks. It was as if the entire human civilization had simply vanished overnight. On the dark side of the Earth's moon, Commander Price watched the alien fleet approach through the observation window of Station Artemis. Was a relaxed man in his early 40s with messy brown hair and a permanent half-smile on his face. He was eating a sandwich while billions of credits worth of enemy warships flew past his position. "They actually showed up," he said between bites. "Lieutenant Shaw, you owe me 20 credits." Lieutenant Amy Shaw groaned and reached for her wallet. She was a young woman with red hair and freckles, and she had been absolutely certain that they would send more scouts before committing their main fleet. "I really thought they would do more reconnaissance first," Amy said as she handed over the money. "These guys are not very bright." Pocketed the credits and took another bite of his sandwich. The fleet was now passing Mars, completely unaware that they were being watched by dozens of hidden stations just like this one. Every ship was being tracked. Every weapon system was being analyzed. Every communication was being intercepted and decoded in real time. "Has the Admiral given the order yet?" Amy asked. Shook his head. "He wants to let them get closer, something about dramatic timing." The Armada crossed the asteroid belt and continued toward Earth. High Commander stood at the front of his bridge with his arms crossed, his confidence growing with every passing minute. The humans had no defenses. They had no fleet. They were helpless prey waiting to be devoured. When the fleet reached the orbit of the moon, finally gave the order to halt. Something was bothering him, though he could not identify exactly what. The silence was too complete. The absence of resistance was too perfect. No civilization surrendered without at least attempting to fight back. "Something is wrong," he muttered to himself. "High Commander," said nervously, "our sensors are detecting an anomaly near the planet." Turned sharply. "What kind of anomaly?" "A ship, High Commander. A single ship emerging from behind the planet." The main flickered and showed a tiny vessel moving toward the Armada. It was a human shuttle, smaller than an escape pod, completely unarmed and utterly defenseless. It broadcast no weapons signatures and carried no military markings. It was a diplomatic vessel. The shuttle transmitted a message in perfect language. The translation appeared on the screen for everyone to read. "Welcome to Sol. Admiral Daniel Moore of the Terran Fleet invites High Commander to a formal dinner aboard our flagship. Dress code is casual. We have prepared refreshments." Read the message 3 times. His purple skin darkened with confusion and growing anger. He looked at who looked equally bewildered. "Is this a joke?" demanded. "It appears genuine, High Commander. The message signature is authentic, and the transmission protocols match standard diplomatic channels." Turned back to thee and stared at the tiny shuttle floating in the void. Behind it, the blue and green planet called Earth turned slowly in the light of its sun. Somewhere down there, billions of humans went about their daily lives, apparently unconcerned about the 6 million warships hanging above their heads. "They invite me to dinner," said slowly. "Their world faces destruction, their species faces extinction, and they invite me to dinner." "Perhaps it is a trap," suggested. "They may be planning an assassination attempt." "With what snapped? They have nothing. No weapons, no fleet, no defenses. What could they possibly do to harm us?" He paced across the bridge, his mind racing through possibilities. The humans were either completely insane or they knew something that he did not. Neither option was comforting. One of his intelligence officers spoke up. "High Commander, we have been analyzing their communications. They are not panicking. There are no evacuation orders, no military alerts, no signs of fear anywhere in their population. They appear to be treating this as a normal day." "Stop packing, that is impossible. We have 6 million warships in their system. We have threatened to destroy their planet. They should be terrified." "They are not, High Commander. If anything, our intercepts suggest they find the situation amusing." The word hung in the air like a bad smell. Amusing. The Empire had been called many things over the centuries. Terrifying, unstoppable, merciless. No one had ever called them amusing. Made his decision. "Prepare my shuttle," he ordered. "I will attend this dinner and discover what game these humans are playing." High Commander protested. "That is extremely dangerous." "Everything is dangerous," replied. "But I did not conquer 800 worlds by hiding from mysteries. If the humans want to talk, I will listen. And when I understand their secrets, I will crush them all the same." He gathered 50 of his finest warriors as an honor guard and boarded his personal shuttle. As he departed from the Eternal Dominion, he looked back at his massive armada and felt a surge of pride. Whatever tricks the humans had planned, they could not possibly stand against such overwhelming force. The shuttle flew toward Earth, carrying the most feared commander in the galaxy toward a dinner that would change everything he believed about power, strength, and the strange creatures called humans. Shuttle followed the small human vessel toward a point in space that appeared completely empty. His sensors showed nothing ahead except the void and distant stars. He was beginning to suspect a trap when reality itself seemed to fold open in front of him. A ship emerged from nowhere. It did not jump in from faster-than-light travel or from any stealth system that recognized. It simply appeared, as if it had been there all along and had only now decided to let itself be seen. The ship was enormous. It dwarfed the Eternal Dominion the way a mountain dwarfs a pebble. Its hull was smooth and dark, without visible weapons or engines or any of the standard features that expected from a warship. It looked less like a military vessel and more like a piece of abstract art floating in the void. His voice came through the communication system from the Eternal Dominion. "High Commander, our sensors are detecting a massive vessel near your position. It appeared from nothing. We have no explanation." "I can see it," replied quietly. His voice had lost some of its usual confidence. "How did we miss something this large?" "Unknown, High Commander. Our scans showed empty space until the moment it appeared. Whatever technology they are using, we have never encountered anything like it." Shuttle approached the massive ship and entered through a hangar bay that could have held 100 cruisers. Human crew members in clean uniforms guided the shuttle to a landing pad. When the doors opened, found a welcoming party waiting for him. Admiral Daniel Moore stood at the front of the group with a warm smile on his face. He was an older human with gray hair and kind eyes, and he looked more like a grandfather than a military commander. Beside him stood several officers in formal dress uniforms, all of them appearing relaxed and friendly. "High Commander," Daniel said, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting. "Thank you for joining us. I hope your journey was not too uncomfortable." Ignored the offered hand and stepped forward with his 50 warriors at his back. "You face extinction, human. Your species has hours to live, and you offer me dinner." Daniel lowered his hand without any sign of offense. "We figured you traveled a long way. Seemed rude not to offer hospitality. Please follow me." He turned and walked deeper into the ship, leaving with a choice. He could return to his shuttle and admit that he was afraid of a dinner invitation, or he could follow and discover what these strange creatures were hiding. His pride made the decision for him. The corridors of the human ship were wide and well lit, decorated with paintings and sculptures that did not understand. Human crew members passed them with polite nods, showing no fear or hostility toward the alien warriors in their midst. Children ran through the hallways, laughing and playing as if this were a civilian station rather than a warship. "You have families on board," observed with surprise. "Of course," Daniel replied. "Long deployments are hard. We find that having loved ones nearby keeps morale high and reminds everyone what they are protecting." The dining hall was the most elegant room had ever seen. A long table filled the center of the space, covered with food and drinks from a dozen different human cultures. Soft music played from hidden speakers. Windows along one wall showed the stars outside, including the distant glow of the Armada. Dr. Susan Bell, the ship's chief science officer, welcomed the guests with a warm smile. She was a small woman with glasses and curly gray hair, and she spoke in a gentle voice that seemed completely unsuited for a military vessel. "We have prepared dishes from many of our worlds," Susan explained. "Please, try whatever looks interesting. The purple dish is especially popular." Sat at the table, surrounded by his warriors, and watched the humans serve food with genuine hospitality. Daniel sat across from him, eating calmly and making pleasant conversation. He asked about culture, their home world, the structure of their society. His questions seemed genuinely curious rather than strategic. Captain Lisa Grant joined them at the table, taking the seat beside Daniel. She was younger than the Admiral, with sharp eyes and a confident posture, and she studied with the calm attention of a scientist examining an interesting specimen. The meal continued for over an hour. The food was excellent, though barely tasted it. His mind was focused on understanding what was happening. The humans were not frightened. They were not desperate. They acted as if this were a normal diplomatic dinner between equals rather than a final meal before annihilation. Finally, set down his utensil and spoke the question that had been burning in his mind since he arrived. "You do not fear us, why?" Daniel exchanged a glance with Lisa. She nodded slightly, giving him permission for something that did not understand. "Permission to be direct, High Commander," Daniel asked. "Speak." Daniel activated a control on the table, and a holographic display appeared above the center of the dining hall. It showed Earth, then zoomed out to reveal the entire solar system, then continued expanding to show the local star cluster, then the entire Orion arm of the galaxy. "Your empire is impressive by galactic standards," Daniel said calmly. "Truly, 12,000 years of conquest is no small achievement, but you have made a critical error in your assessment of humanity." The display highlighted thousands of points throughout human space. Each point represented something hidden, something they had never detected. "You counted our visible ships," Daniel continued. "You scanned our public installations. You measured our broadcast technology and estimated our military strength. You did exactly what every aggressive species has done when they first discovered us." He paused and took a sip of his drink. "You never thought to look beneath the surface." The holographic display changed, and felt his blood run cold. The hidden points expanded into detailed images of shipyards buried inside asteroids, defense platforms drifting in the darkness between stars, automated weapon systems spanning entire sectors, and fleets upon fleets of warships that no scanner had ever detected. "What you see as the Terran fleet is a mask," Lisa explained. "A decoy designed to make us look weak and harmless. Behind that mask lies something rather different." Stared at the display, his four eyes moving from image to image, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. Everything he had believed about humanity was wrong. Everything his intelligence officers had reported was a carefully constructed lie. Daniel leaned forward with that same warm smile on his face. "Would you like to know the truth, High Commander? Would you like to understand exactly what you have challenged?" Could not find words to answer. For the first time in 300 years of warfare, he was genuinely afraid. The holographic display continued to expand, showing layer after layer of hidden military infrastructure that stretched across an impossibly vast region of space. Watched in growing horror as the true scale of human power revealed itself before his eyes. The Terran fleet numbers approximately 400 million active warships, Daniel explained in the same calm voice he had used throughout the dinner. "We have another 600 million in reserve, maintained by automated systems and ready to deploy within hours. Our defense grid can eliminate any hostile vessel within 3 light-years of Earth in under 4 seconds. Finally found his voice. "Impossible. Our intelligence indicated perhaps 10,000 ships at most." "Your intelligence saw exactly what we wanted them to see." Lisa leaned forward with something like sympathy in her eyes. "High Commander, humanity learned a long time ago that the galaxy is full of aggressive species. We survived by letting them underestimate us." Dr. Susan Bell activated another section of the display. This showed a timeline of human history, starting from their first steps into space and continuing to the present day. "Humans have been traveling among the stars for nearly 3,000 years, Susan explained. For the first 500 years, we were exactly what you thought we were. Weak, primitive, struggling to survive in a hostile universe. We lost colonies to alien attacks. We lost millions of lives to species that saw us as easy prey. She pointed to a period on the timeline marked with red. This was our darkest hour. The Dominion found us and decided to exterminate our species for sport. They burned 17 of our worlds and killed over 4 billion people. We were on the edge of extinction. Had heard of They had been a powerful empire on the far side of the galaxy, known for their cruelty and their love of hunting intelligent species. They had vanished suddenly about 2,000 years ago. No one knew what had happened to them. "What did you do?" asked. "We survived," Daniel replied simply. "And then we learned. We built weapons that they could not understand. We developed technology that seemed like magic to anyone who encountered it. We hid everything behind a mask of weakness, and we waited. And they do not exist anymore." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Understood now. They had not vanished mysteriously. They had been erased. A species that had terrorized the galaxy had simply ceased to exist, and no one had ever known why. Colonel Timothy Drake entered the dining hall with a tablet in his hand. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a face that showed no emotion. He walked directly to Admiral Moore and spoke in a low voice. "Admiral, the fleet has powered weapons. They are preparing to fire on Earth." Daniel sighed and set down his drink. "That is unfortunate. I was hoping we could resolve this peacefully." He turned to with a serious expression. "High Commander, I strongly advise you to order your fleet to stand down. Right now." Felt a spark of defiance flare up through his fear. "You are bluffing. No species could hide such power. No civilization could maintain 1 billion warships without anyone knowing. This is a trick, an illusion, some kind of psychological weapon." Daniel nodded slowly, as if he had expected this response. "Lieutenant Commander," he said into his communicator, "please demonstrate Protocol 17. Nothing visible happened. No weapons fired. No ships moved. The stars outside the windows remained exactly as they had been a moment before. Then the communication system crackled with panicked voices. "High Commander, this is the Eternal Dominion. We have lost all power. Our shields are down. Our weapons are offline. We cannot move." Another voice joined in. "This is the battlecruiser Conquest. Same situation. All systems have failed. Life support is still functioning, but everything else is dead." More voices followed, one after another, each reporting the same impossible situation. Every ship in the Armada had lost power simultaneously. 6 million warships, the greatest fleet in the history of the Empire, had been disabled in the space of a single heartbeat. Stared at the windows, where his mighty Armada now drifted helplessly among the stars. He turned to Daniel with a mix of rage and terror on his purple face. "What have you done?" "We hacked your fleet about 6 hours ago," Lisa explained casually. "We have been running their systems remotely ever since. Your ships are not disabled. They are ours." "That is impossible," snarled. "Our encryption is unbreakable. Our security protocols have never been penetrated." Timothy shrugged. "They were mildly challenging. Our systems needed about 4 minutes to crack them completely. We spent the rest of the time mapping your command structure and preparing selective shutdowns. We could have destroyed your entire fleet the moment it entered human space," Daniel added. "We could have killed every single one of your soldiers before they even knew we existed. We chose not to." "Why?" "Because we do not want to kill your people, High Commander. We never did. Humanity has seen enough death. We have caused enough death. We have moved beyond the need to prove our strength through destruction." He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the paralyzed Armada. "Your ships are unharmed. Your soldiers are alive. Your life support systems will continue to function indefinitely. We have complete control, but we are not using it to hurt anyone. Felt his legs weaken beneath him. He had spent 300 years as the most feared commander in the galaxy. He had destroyed civilizations and enslaved entire species. He had believed that power came from weapons and warriors and the willingness to kill. Now he stood in the dining hall of an enemy ship, surrounded by humans who could wipe out his entire fleet with a thought, and they were offering him dessert. "Our chef makes an excellent chocolate cake," Susan mentioned. "Would you like to try some?" Looked at the small woman with the curly gray hair and the gentle smile. He looked at the admiral standing by the window with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked at the young captain watching him with those sharp, knowing eyes. For the first time in his long life, he had no idea what to do next. "What do you want from us?" he asked finally. His voice was quiet, almost humble. "If you do not want our destruction, what do you want?" Daniel turned from the window and smiled. "Now that is an excellent question." Daniel walked back to the table and sat down across from. The tension in the room had changed. The warriors who had come as an honor guard now stood with their weapons lowered, their confidence shattered by the impossible thing they had just witnessed. Their entire fleet, the greatest military force their empire had ever assembled, was now under human control. "We want something very simple," Daniel began. "We want you to stop." "Stop what?" asked. "Everything. The conquests, the slavery, the destruction of other civilizations. We want the empire to become a member of the galactic community rather than its greatest threat." Captain Turner entered the room with a formal document in her hands. She was a woman in her late 30s with short black hair and a diplomatic bearing that suggested years of negotiation experience. She placed the document on the table in front of. "This is the Sol Accords," explained. 16 other major powers have already signed it. The agreement establishes basic rights for all intelligent species, prohibits unprovoked aggression, and creates a framework for peaceful cooperation and trade. Looked at the document without touching it. "You want us to give up our empire. You want us to release our slaves and abandon our conquests." "Yes," Daniel said simply. "And if we refuse?" Daniel was quiet for a moment. "Then we will be forced to have this conversation again in a few years, except next time it will be in your throne room on Prime." His voice remained friendly, but his meaning was absolutely clear. Thought about his options. He could refuse and watch as humanity took control of his empire by force. He could accept and return home as the commander who surrendered without fighting. Neither choice was appealing, but one was clearly worse than the other. "I do not have the authority to make this decision," said finally. "Only the High Sovereign can agree to terms like these." "Then contact him," Lisa suggested. "We will wait." The communication system was restored to the Eternal Dominion and transmitted a message to Prime explaining the situation. The response came faster than anyone expected. High Sovereign appeared on his ancient face twisted with rage. "You dare to threaten my empire," screamed at the humans. "You dare to demand the surrender of I will burn your worlds to ash. I will hunt your species to the last child." Daniel listened patiently until the threats were finished. Then he spoke in a calm, measured voice. "High Sovereign, at this moment I have complete control of your greatest fleet. I could destroy those 6 million ships with a single command. I could then proceed to your home world and do the same to your defensive forces. Your empire would fall in a matter of weeks, and there is nothing you could do to prevent it." Stared at him with hatred in his eyes, but said nothing. "However," Daniel continued, "we do not wish to do any of those things. We are offering you a chance to survive and even to prosper. They have much to offer the galaxy beyond conquest and destruction. Your scientists, your artists, your builders could contribute greatly to a peaceful civilization." He leaned forward slightly. "All you have to do is stop being the villains of this story. It is not a difficult choice." The negotiation took 17 hours. raged and threatened and demanded. The humans remained calm and patient, explaining their position again and again, never raising their voices, never making aggressive moves. They simply waited until they understood that there was only one path forward. In the end, agreed to the Sol Accords. The Empire would release all enslaved species over the next decade. They would cease all aggressive expansion. They would participate in a new galactic council that would govern relations between member species. In exchange, humanity would restore full control of the fleet and guarantee protection for worlds against any species seeking revenge for past conquests. They would not be destroyed. They would simply be reformed. The signing ceremony took place aboard the TFS Relentless 1 week later. Stood beside Admiral Moore as representatives from 20 species gathered to witness the end of the Empire as the galaxy had known it. "Do you hate us?" asked quietly as the ceremony began. Daniel shook his head. "No, we understand you. 1,000 years ago, humanity was not so different from we made war on each other constantly. We built empires through violence and called it glory. We had to learn a better way through terrible suffering. You believe we can change?" "I believe everyone can change, High Commander. The question is whether they choose to." The ceremony concluded with signatures and handshakes and a toast to peace. As the delegates departed to their ships, found himself standing alone with Daniel by the observation window. The stars spread out before them, countless points of light representing worlds and species and futures yet to be written. "What happens now?" asked. "Now we build something better," Daniel replied. "It will not be easy. Many of your people will resist the changes. Many of the species you conquered will demand justice. There will be challenges and setbacks and moments when it seems impossible to continue." He smiled at the commander. "But humanity will be there to help. We have walked this road before. We know how hard it is to become something better than what you were." 1 year later, Ambassador stood before a gathering of young officers on his home world. He had traded his military uniform for diplomatic robes, and his role had changed from conqueror to teacher. "They could have destroyed us," he told the young warriors. "They had the power to erase our entire civilization in an afternoon. Instead, they offered us dinner and asked about our families." He paused, remembering that strange meal aboard a human ship, remembering the warmth in Admiral Moore's eyes and the gentle smile of Dr. Susan Bell. That is why humanity leads the galaxy now, not because they are the strongest, though they are, not because they are the most advanced, though they are that too. It is because when they had every reason to destroy us, they chose to laugh, pour us coffee, and ask if we wanted to be friends. The young officers listened in silence, their understanding of power forever changed by his words. And somewhere in the vast reaches of space, aboard the TFS Relentless, Admiral Daniel Moore was enjoying his morning coffee. A message arrived from Fleet Command about another aggressive empire that had just discovered human space and sent threatening demands. Daniel read the message and chuckled softly. Some things never changed. The galaxy was full of species who believed that power came from weapons and violence, who measured strength by the ability to destroy. He forwarded the message to his staff with a familiar annotation. "They have no idea, do they?" Then he finished his coffee, called for a meeting with his diplomatic team, and began preparing another dinner invitation. There was always room at the table for those willing to learn.